Okay, so
You should fire this. Not the only person who's
you can't hand a gun to an Australian because we don't get to hold guns. So I'll kill somebody with that.
Yeah, just point up. Don't point down. Just point. The only person who's fired this.
I love that this has, by the way, have you guys seen that this has a pistol grip? An actual pistol grip.
So the only person who's fired that other than you is John Woo. So you're in his company.
I love John Woo. Can I say, so in the 90s, when I was in my teens, I was on a TV show in Australia where I was the film reviewer. So any film person that came on the show, they would get me to interview them, and I got to interview John Woo, and he was easily the best. He was the nicest, and he used to send me Christmas cards for a few years, which nearly killed me. I would get Christmas cards from John Woo.
Has anyone else in this room got a Christmas card from John Woo?
That's just bragging, but it was... But yeah, I don't want to tell recovery stories for an hour because there's a lot of them. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Christian. We did the premiere for Upgrade in this theatre, and it was the best the film ever looked and sounded. Thank you so much for that. Christian worked with me on that one, getting it out there. Do people know that you actually worked on Upgrade?
No one knows.
Shh, nobody knows that your constant promotion of Upgrade has something to do with the company you work for. I love it.
Nothing at all.
So thank you for having me in this amazing theatre. I was actually here yesterday. Who was here at the Thriller Marathon yesterday? Give them your hands. So we showed some films that inspired this. We showed Misery, Dead Calm, Fatal Attraction, and Gone Girl. So basically what I wanted to do with this film was try and make one of those like adult thrillers that Hollywood used to make before CGI came along. You remember that window where they would make these films like Pacific Heights and The Hand That Rocks the Cradle?
Yes.
Films like that, and then, you know, if they make a film like that today, it's a Netflix movie. But yeah, I was trying to make something like that. I hope it scares the shit out of you guys. I'm trying to stress you out. And you know, usually, the last thing I'll say, because we want to get on with it, is usually when you make a film, like you finish it and then months and months go by and you can sort of decompress from it, and then all of a sudden somebody calls you and says, time to talk about a marketing plan, and all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, that movie, and then you're doing interviews and the person's asking you, and you're trying to remember, they're asking you, so what motivated you to do this shot in the movie? And it was so long ago that you're trying to think up an answer. Well, this movie was finished 2 weeks ago. So the time between finishing it and like showing it is short, and that's stressful for me. So while hopefully this movie is stressing you out, you watching it is stressing me out. So you're getting your revenge in a big way, stress-wise. We'll be equal in the stress levels. But I'm so thankful to you guys. I just want to say that you guys keep me employed. Like the fact that you would turn up here to watch this film, it really, really does mean a lot. And I hope you love it. After the movie, I'm going to do a Q&A. You can always tell how a movie's done is by who stays for the Q&A. Like, every person that files out the door as soon as the credits roll is like a razor cut to my heart. So if you're with like 6 people, you need to ask a couple to leave, because more than 4 razor cuts to the heart and you'll just bleed out.
You're dead.
But it is a good indicator of how well the movie's done. The old like, credits rolling, let's go. Let's go, Janine. Janine? I don't know where I pulled that from. That's my American. I have an American alter ego called Zach Jansen. He's a nice guy.
Zach Jansen.
Zach, yeah, he's from Wisconsin, hard worker. Positive though, positive guy. So after the movie, the credits are going to run for a little bit, but then after a while, you know, not too long, the lights are going to come up, and then I'm going to come up here and sit here, and Christian's going to be here, and he's going to ask me questions. So if you want to stay for that, and you want to ask some questions, you can stay for that. And that's about it.
Or you can literally stab you in the heart by leaving the theater.
Or you can just like, set fire to my house. Thanks, brother.
Unbelievable, God.
Hi.
Yeah, this
Just
is
counting the razor cuts.
Yeah, they're sticking around.
I'm gonna die.
There was so many audible gasps. I was up in the nosebleeds watching it, and yeah, you could feel it in the room all the way through. This is not a Universal Monsters we've ever seen before in any way, shape, or form. So, how did you become embroiled in this?
Well, it wasn't something I was pursuing. I know of The Invisible Man, obviously, and as a horror fan, I respect his place in the history of horror, along with Dracula and all these older characters that have been around for so long. But I wasn't pursuing it. I didn't march into someone's office and be like, "The Invisible Man." It was something that was suggested to me. The title was brought up. I actually went to a meeting right after I finished Upgrade with some of the Blumhouse execs and some of the Universal execs, and I thought they were going to talk about how great Upgrade was for a while. And they spent about 10 seconds talking about Upgrade. And then they mentioned this, and someone in the room just said, "What would you do with The Invisible Man?" And it was, I don't know, it's kind of that thing where, like, you remember in Office Space, has anyone seen that? Where they bring in Ron Livingston and they're like, "What do you do at this company for the job review?" And he's like, "Nothing." And they're like, "That's the kind of attitude we need around here." And he just keeps getting promoted, the more honest. It was like that. Because I didn't care, there was no tension or like, "Let me get this job." So they said, "What would you do with this character?" And I was just like, "I don't know, I guess I would tell the story from the point of view of a victim, like a woman escaping a relationship. And he comes after him and maybe he fakes his suicide and stuff." And they were like, "This is a great take." And then I had a job. My agent was calling me saying, "They love your take on The Invisible Man." And I was like, what's going on? And before I knew it, I was writing the film. So that's really how I came into it, but I could immediately see an opportunity to modernize it. Just when someone mentioned that title to me, it kind of put me on the spot. You know, Jason Blum had mentioned some of the Universal monsters in the past. Every now and again, while I was editing Upgrade, he'd be like, "Buddy, what do you think of Dracula?" And I was just I'm not a good multitasker, so I was just focused on Upgrade. And but when this title was suggested to me, I could just see a way to make it kind of clinical and modern and scary. Because when these characters were invented, they were really scary.
Yeah.
And I think we've lost that along the way. They're so ubiquitous now that they're comedic. Like, you know, you could plug Dracula into anything. You know, he's so ubiquitous, he's such a part of pop culture, and he's got such a cultural footprint that you could do a romantic comedy and just be like, "It's Dracula on Tinder." And like...
That's a good pitch.
Yeah, no, can't you just see, like, you know, Kate Hudson being like, "Why doesn't he want to go on any dates during the day?" And I love this guy, but he's so weird. He smells like garlic. Or, you know, it's just like, it's this whole thing, and I feel like, you know, my daughter watches animated movies with these characters in them, and that's how safe they've become. So my thought was, you know, can we drag it kicking and screaming into our era and make it scary in the way they originally were?
Because in many ways it is, but then as I was watching it, the thing that struck me is it's also like, this is the way we presented it, like it's a ghost story. It's the fear of the unknown, right? So you're following Elizabeth Moss, but there are legit jump scares in there, and there's moments, and when she first starts to believe that he's there, and there's the whole scene with the sheet, I was going back to like Paranormal Activity, like that type of stuff, which was just like, haunted house, you don't know where this is going, the fear is built by the unknown that's actually all around. So it's this weird space of like melding the two, of like classic horror, but then it's also like completely contemporized the Universal Monsters world and the lore that like H.G. Wells came with. Did you go back? Did you read Wells's novel?
Yeah, I did go back and I watched the original film, and
yeah.
I sort of went back to those original texts and everything, and I realized that, you know, I felt like the best thing I could do for this character was to not slavishly adapt the original, because I guess there's a really gothic version of this that'd be set in the late 1800s, and it would be in London, and there'd be fog machines.
Fog, yeah.
Yeah. And like, I guess I would want to watch that film more than make it. I felt like the version I wanted to make had to be like, I felt like to make it scary for a modern audience, the Invisible Man could not be the central character. for me. Maybe someone else could have written that film
Well,
and
you've
made
got
it scary.
no
but not
empathy
me.
with him if he's.
Yeah, I mean, it just demystifies it a little bit. I think there was a mystery to these monsters originally, Dracula and Frankenstein, Wolfman, the Invisible Man, where they're like a bit unknowable, you know, when they were first hitting people's eyes, and I think now they're so known that to make it scary for me, I had to make him unknown again, and I didn't. The thing I liked about it was that it wasn't a ghost film, even though, because I've made a few ghost movies, and I felt a bit been there, done that. Like I wasn't wanting to do a supernatural movie, even though some of the beats and some of the sort of structure, I like it being that scary. But the main attraction for me, because I had just made Upgrade, and you really get bitten by the action sci-fi bug. Once you've orchestrated a few car crashes, it's like heroin. You're like, I want to crash more cars.
So, I was going to ask that. It's almost like this is like a third chapter of your career, obviously coming out with Saw and inventing that, and then moving into Insidious. This feels like almost a companion piece. Not a companion piece, but it feels like there's connective tissue between this and Upgrade. And so is this kind of like, is this the next chapter of the Whannell film? Like, where are you going?
I don't know. Yeah, it's weird now in hindsight. I do see a lot of similarities between this and Upgrade. I don't think it was by design, all of it. Some of it, I've clearly got some weird thing about rich people who live by the ocean. I don't know what that's about. I'd have to see a therapist.
You've got a thing for giant kitchen knives.
Yeah.
Implements of death.
Kitchen knives.
Yeah.
Kitchen fights.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something there. I mean, I guess there's a sort of a style. I wanted to take that Upgrade thing further of the camera sort of locking to the actors and doing fight scenes in one take. There were certain things that Stefan Ducio, the cinematographer, he's not here, is he? Where are you, Stefan? Oh, he's not here. He's probably not here. He and I were really emboldened by Upgrade and how people responded to the fight scenes and the action that we shot, because we didn't have much of a budget on that film, and so we were just trying things, and people really responded to it. That's the thing that they took away from the movie. So on this one, we wanted to go a bit further, you know, or keep using that technique. But I would say there's some like links there. But after I finished Upgrade, I kind of wanted to do something more in that world, maybe with more of a budget. And this kind of crash landed into my life, and I was thinking, okay, if I'm going to make another horror film, it has to be something different, it has to feel different in some way.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's supremely modern, and the relationship with technology is something that really bears fruit. So when you were making Upgrade, when you were writing Upgrade, we talked about this, you tried to take as many elements that you could from actual technology of things that were being done or that were close to being done. Did you do the same type of research with this, or did you just let your imagination run wild?
I mean, I wanted it to feel, I didn't want him injecting a serum or something like that. You know, it's always the serum.
Yeah.
Always with the serum. It's like, any superhero film, it's like, my God, he's injected himself with a serum. And now he can see through time. And it's like, and if anybody asks, you just like, it's a serum. And so I wanted to get away from that, no potions. And so I just started thinking about, well, what would make invisibility credible? And if you do research into it, they really are actively trying to make this a real thing. It always starts with the military. That's where everything starts, the internet, everything.
Yeah.
And then it filters down into our lives eventually. And so they are doing this, and then the production designer, Alex Holmes, and I actually went to visit some scientists in Sydney at the University of Technology in Sydney, and we kind of pitched our idea for the suit. And there was 3 of them, and they were like, yeah, that could work, yeah. They started like drawing up plans for it. So yeah, it was anything to make it credible, I guess, or I wanted the audience to just see themselves in the movie and not feel that it was too outlandish or too far removed from daily reality.
Well, you do feel grounded. I mean, you feel grounded in particular because of Elizabeth Moss. Like her reactions. I mean, she brings incredible physicality to the role, which I don't think we've ever seen her do something like that before. And she's an incredible actress. But yeah, you feel everything with her throughout. There's real empathy for her as this victim, but then, as I say, the physicality. Like, you feel every blow. And was she always, like from a casting process, was she like number one as you were writing this? Did you think about her? Because, I mean, she's one of the very best actresses out there, period, of this generation.
Yeah, I mean, I actually didn't picture her while I was writing, but only because I never picture actors while I'm writing. I usually picture friends of mine, people I know. Just, it's a way when I'm writing of sort of connecting to the character, and I can predict what they would say in a given situation. And then when I'm finished writing, I have to divorce myself from these people that I know and think of actors. And so when that time came, as you said, I mean, it's a pretty short list, I think, of actors who can carry a whole movie like this. And I think in a horror movie or a thriller where someone has to really dive off the cliff of sanity, I think that it's really easy to go into histrionics and just for it to be over the top. Like, I thought Toni Collette was incredible in Hereditary, like conveying, it's amazing. Just at conveying like true grief and just doing it in such an authentic way. And I think the margin between it being underplayed and like over the top is razor thin.
Yeah.
And I think Elizabeth Moss is capable of it. So someone at Universal suggested her, Donna Langley, who had just done Us.
Yeah.
And as soon as I'm a huge fan of The Handmaid's Tale and Mad Men, and as soon as Donna suggested Elizabeth, I was thinking, yeah, I think I want to see that version of the film. I want to see the Elizabeth Moss version of this movie. And then we sent her the script and pretty quickly had a awkward phone call where I was driving and the reception was bad and I couldn't hear her. And but I heard enough to know that she wanted to do it. So yeah, that was it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a side we haven't seen. And then Aldous Hodge as well. He's awesome. My wife audibly gasped at the point when he leans in and he's all flexing. So thanks for that. I think you've broken my marriage.
Nice.
But also, I mean the whole cast is great.
Yeah, I mean I felt so lucky. We shot the film in Sydney, and I just felt really lucky with the cast. Because you never really know with actors, especially if an actor auditions, if they do a great audition, you still don't know if they're going to be great on set or what's going to happen. Maybe that was just their one good day. Yeah. With Elizabeth, I know what she's capable of, but a lot of the other actors, I would see them audition and be like, I think this is great, but they all just turned out to be so great and really got into their characters and each character in the film, it's a pretty small piece. There's not a huge cast of characters, so I was able to really, dig in with each character and have long conversations with each of the actors about who the person was and what they were like. And like Michael Dorman, who played the brother, he just had a great time playing a prick, and I love giving actors homework. I would make him watch all these videos of YouTube videos of certain people, and I made him watch a lot of videos of Trump's kids. Oh. The brothers.
The brothers. Say no more.
Not just as saying I'm like, there's a false confidence here with this guy, Michael, and he'd be like, I got it.
I don't know how to go from that. So talking about characters, it's almost a character.
There goes the Republican ticket sales for this movie.
Just disappeared out the room.
Fuck you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Talking to characters, the sound design of this film, not a physical character, but it's almost a character unto itself because there's so much weight, there's so much emphasis put upon it because you're dealing with the unknown. You can't see this, but sound plays a really important role.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a film called The Invisible Man,
it's
you're going to be relying on the sound design, and the sound designer was this guy Will Files. The sound designer was Philip Hooker, this guy PK, and the sound mixer was Will Files. And they both worked on Upgrade. I thought they did an amazing job, but we didn't have much time on Upgrade. Everything felt very rushed because it was such a low-budget film. With this, we had a little bit more money, and we had a bit more time in the mixing room, and Will is he was way above our pay grade. He's mixed Star Wars movies and Star Trek movies. He's doing the new Batman movie. Like, he's one of those top shelf sound mixers that does these giant studio films. So I just felt so lucky to have him, and I was like, I want you to go bananas on this film. Like, I want you to mix it like a demo reel for Dolby Atmos. And he was like, oh yeah. And it's like music to a sound mixer's ears. And so it was awesome working with him. I just love sound. Weirdly, I went to a film school. James Wan and I went to a film school in Melbourne that was more focused on film sound than the visuals. Got to be the only film school in the world, surely, that is more interested and focused on sound design than visuals.
Yeah.
And so we kind of came out of this school. All through the years of film school, we would study the sound design of like heat and colors and the conversation and all these different films that. And so it's just, I think that is what has given me this real appreciation for film sound. And you can hear, you notice the movies that do something interesting with sound design. A lot of times it's the movies about sound. You know, like The Conversation, Blowout, these movies, they have a really interesting like stereo mix. They're always doing something super interesting. And so this was I wanted this film to feel like that, to feel like a sound design heavy movie.
I should say that Leigh was actually, one of the things that he stressed before screening this, he was like, make sure that the sound is really cranking in there.
Sorry.
No, so sitting up there, like, you could really feel it, like, you feel everything. And so, I mean, the craft is in the film, obviously your craft, but then, so not just the sound design, but the cinematography as well. You referenced that earlier. It's really beautifully done. And you get a feel for it early on in the film when Elizabeth's in the kitchen, she's cooking the bacon and eggs and stuff, and then there's just a couple of shots. It just, the framing is non-conventional, and it just sits for a little bit, and it gives you this indication that something's slightly wrong, and then lo and behold it is, and then you next see the stove suddenly start to go up in heat while the pan's they're cooking. How much of a relationship do you have with your cinematographer? How much is that you calling the shots, or do you kind of lean back? Is it part of the scripting process? Are you storyboarding?
Some of it is part of the script. Like usually when I start writing a film, I'll try to prolong the period of not writing. That's my favorite part of writing.
It's called procrastination.
Yeah. It's paid procrastination. It's even better.
Yeah.
And I'll just stretch that out. I'll get to the end of month 2 and be like, looks like we need another month of watching reference films. And that's how my writing process goes for a long time before I start typing. I'm like sitting there with my notepad and I'm like, yeah, I really want the opening to feel like The Thing. I should watch The Thing. Feet up. And so, you know, during that time of working things out, I'm just sketching in the notepad and putting together music and just trying to build a collage of what the movie is. And during that time, I just thought, I thought it'd be interesting if the camera was a character unto itself. And, you know, kind of moved away from actors while they were talking, like, I'm not interested in you anymore. I'm gonna go over here and kind of tap on the fourth wall. Or at least, I just wanted to make people afraid of empty spaces. You know that people buy a ticket to a movie called The Invisible Man, they're going to be suspicious of any empty corridor I show them. And so I just wanted to torture people and kind of, it's suggestive. That's the gift the character gives you, I guess. This invisibility means that anytime there's an emptiness in the film, it can be tense. So that's what I was going for. So it was definitely at script stage, and then I spoke to Stefan, and our first conversation, I told him about that. I was like, I want to shoot a lot of empty rooms, and I want to do things that are counterintuitive to horror movies that I've done before. You know, like usually every horror movie that's made, let alone the ones I've worked on, the lights are always off. It's always super dark. And so I said to Stefan, I want to turn the lights on. You know, we don't need to, this is not a character that needs to hide in the shadows. This is someone who could be standing next to you in a fluoro lit room, which is not something a cinematographer wants to hear. Let's turn the lights on. Cinematographers love darkness. And so I gave him a couple of dark scenes. I was like, fine, here we go. But But you know, he's just so up for anything. He's such a creative cinematographer, and so as soon as I had that initial conversation with him, we just picked up that thought and were running with it, and just kept developing the kind of visual language of the film.
And then finally, and then we'll throw it to the audience. But the score as well hits really hard. It's a perfect compliment. That was Benjamin Wallfish.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's Dunkirk. All these like.
Yeah, he worked on Dunkirk. He did Blade Runner 2049. He did the It films, and he's amazing. He's like this mild-mannered English guy, and he's just so fun to work with. He didn't have a huge amount of time to do the score for this, and I played it to him without temp music. Usually you would put all this temp music on it to give the composer the idea of what you're going for. With this, I just played it without any music, and he loved that for sure. And I just wanted to see what would happen, and I gave him an idea of what I wanted, but I didn't want him to be influenced by some other piece of music, you know, which happens a lot with composers. They're like, oh, great, now I have to write the theme from Inception. Except change a couple of notes so I don't get sued. And like, I didn't want to give him that. So we just built it from the ground up. It was awesome to go to England. He recorded the orchestral stuff in England at this amazing studio. It was a great experience.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's so huge. It really, it brings just like another layer, and then the discordant nature of it as well. Just, as I say, it just hits really, really hard. It's super